Hi, it's Rachel with Stirring the Deep. It is now time to come to the Heavenly Father in a new and living way. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. When this earth, we start out, in this earth, in the flesh, with a flesh mind, which is the tomb. It's the grave, it's the pit. Because when you're in death and you're following after the things of death, it's like this bottomless pit. It's darkness. The moment that you start truly seeking to know the truth, the Creator, to understand that perfect, divine Spirit of God, it's like your tomb that your spirit dwelt in now starts becoming like a womb. You're not yet alive, but you're in the process of becoming alive in the world, alive in the kingdom. But that's what it's like a womb. And just like when you're in the womb, you get your nutrients from the umbilical cord, right? That in the womb, that is, for us spiritually, that's the Bible. That's how you're fed so that you can build that truth. All right. But once you come out of the womb and you start to be born, meaning you come to a point where you have that truth in you, right? And you've grown to the point of coming forth. So that's also that where you're coming to be joined to Christ in a fullness, That fullness of Christ is entering into you. That's also what brings forth that birth. That is also that seed in you that starts to hatch, and that spirit in you that starts to come alive, right? But while you're in that womb state, you are coming alive, but you're not fully alive yet. And that is your nutrient, is the Word, the Bible, all right? Because you're going there and you're learning, and what you're seeking that's what you're seeking is truth. That's how you grow. So through, as you would read, you would trust that Spirit of God that was there as your teacher to teach you. And what you were seeking for was the character of God. And if you can really sought after God, that's what you were learning, what His nature was like. But now, as you get ready to come truly alive, you have to let go and let that umbilical cord be cut, which means you're being cut from that old way that you would receive that understanding from God. So instead of going to the Bible to find that understanding, you're now communing directly with God. It's just like when a child is in a womb, they are in a very protective place, right? And they're growing and they're being nurtured in that. And when you start seeking God, that's what He does. You start to get this protective nature around your life, and you really start to grow. But then you get to that point where you have to come to birth. You have to come to life so that you can see your Father in a very intimate and a new way, a new connection. So because when the baby comes out of the womb, it interacts very differently with the mother now, right? It's a new and living way. It's new, and that the baby is truly alive, all right? That's what we do. We're coming out, and you come truly alive. Now you connect in a new way, and you have to let that umbilical cord be cut. That's also the same thing as saying in the womb you were still a part of this death existence. You were the seed growing in it and starting to come alive, but you were still in it. And that's why in the Bible there is so much of this overshadowing of death and destruction, because it is the tool that God uses to pull you out of the pit. It's the journey. It's what builds the truth, because His character is hidden in there. It's the hidden manna. in between all that's going on within it, it's hidden. Okay, and if you're trusting the Holy Spirit to teach you, that's what he shows you. And that's what you really start to learn, is the character of God. Okay, so you're communing with his Spirit through those words. That's where his Spirit was interacting with you. That's why there was such a hunger to go to the Bible, and you learned so much, and you had these amazing connections, and you saw how it worked, and it taught, and it built, and it was this tool of confirmation. There was so much that was going on because that Spirit was there through those words, teaching you, feeding you, helping you to grow. But once you come to come to life, to come to birth, you no longer cling to that old way of communion. And in fact, what happens, it's like that Spirit that you learned of, the Spirit of God, that divine nature that you connected to, comes out of that Bible. You leave that Bible behind, but you carry all that Spirit that came out of it, and now is a part of you. There's a oneness there, and this is also like the true marriage. There's all these different analogies. I'll use a lot of different ones to describe it because they all describe the different stages in different ways to help us to understand, okay? So then it's like that real marriage where there's nothing between you and God's Spirit. It's spirit to spirit. There's a true oneness. There's a oneness in your flesh. Just when you have someone that you marry and you really are marrying, and what you should be marrying is their spirit, their character. That is what you are connecting to. And that's what we connect to God. We let go of all images. And all these, and I wrote a blog this week on last Monday, about that, about letting go of all the images. And when you do that, it creates this most powerful union because you're allowing God to create your marriage. Okay? We do the same thing with God. We come to him, and when you want a real oneness, and the only way he can truly become one with you is he's living, he's alive, he's a spirit, he has no images. So you can have no images. Well, the Bible has all kinds of images in it. And so you have to set that aside and let him commune. Now let him write directly on your heart. That's the new covenant. Write directly there. The Bible set the framework to bring you out of death, to build that truth in you so that you could come and be united to him in all fullness without anything in between you. So now it's a very deep communion of your spirit and God's. So when you have that very deep communion, you don't need the Bible as you did before for all that nourishment. Now you will always know that it was that tool that God used and taught and built and established and brought you through to this delivery. It was also the ark, with Noah's ark, right? That was the protection, right? That he was in that ark, it was safe. And that's also what the Bible provided, those truths. As you were seeking God, it was your safe haven because it was helping you to formulate these truths that were your protection and your defense because they're building your faith and your trust in God, right? But eventually you have to let go and come out of the ark. You have to come out of the ark, and at first it feels like you're going to be walking, it's the water, but you walk on water to Christ. Okay? It's because once you step out, what you realize you have is dry land. That's what he makes it like. It's like so you feel like, whoa, I mean, I've always had this. I've always been connected. This has been kind of, my plumb line, how I knew I was going in the right direction, right? So when you first step out, you feel like you feel a point of emptiness. And I don't know if any of you else felt that, but it was yesterday that I felt that. It was almost like my earth was truly quaking. And that's what it felt like. It's like that was being severed from that umbilical cord of that's how I was receiving that. It was always the way that I felt like, okay, this is my connection to God. Yes, he's connected to me, my spirit, but these words were like a confirmation and a testimony to that. It was still part of how I was gaining my nutrients. Okay, I would gain it in a lot of other ways, but it was also still that. So you're like the baby outside of the womb, but you're still connected. Okay? Because we've talked about that. That birth has happened, but now you realize, well, you're still connected. Now it's time to sever the cord. And it's time to eat new and living food of right now, the present moment. And that is that life that he's giving you in that union with you. And so you have to be willing to let go of it. And because the Bible ultimately paints all these images. And I'm going to get more into another video, more about the role that it plays. And it still does, because even now as you're growing in this new connection with God, he'll bring up ways that he's already taught you, because that's the way truth builds. It's layer upon layer, right? So all of that was very purposeful and meaningful, because that's how you came through that time. That's how you grew in the womb. But now it's like, that's how you survived in the ark. That was your nourishment in the ark. And that's what it felt like. That was the one place you could go that you knew that you could trust the Spirit of God to teach you. Okay, is through those words. But now you're trusting it spirit to spirit. And that you're trusting, just like when Peter went to walk on the water, he should have been trusting the life of Christ to sustain him. Now we are to trust that life in us, a part of us, being unified to sustain us. And that's the most intimate connection. And you think about how when you move into the kingdom of heaven, do you think, when you're seeing and you're communing with God so intimately, do you think you're still going to be going to a book, right? That was written of the past, that held the things of death, that was of that death? No, you are separating from all the things of death. And even though it brought you out of death, that's what it was. It was the tool to bring you to God, but it's not God. Okay? It was a tool to bring you to the spirit, that intimate spirit communion with God, that oneness that never leaves. So now you're always in that communion, and he's always guiding you, and what he's going to be teaching you in your life is really, now that he's in you, is what? How to love. So it's going to be your experiences all around you. And that's what he does. He's been using your experiences to teach you. But now it's going to be purely that venue, because you've already got the foundation. You've gone through that phase. It's now for a new phase. And that phase is having him so intimately teach you and use your life. And what he's showing you is how to love. How to love. Which you got started that framework right in the womb, but then when you're out, that's what you're really learning. And that's why it's in your reality. God's using your reality, your world, your experiences to teach you, because it's all about what's here in your present moment right now. He's with you. He's guiding every word, every thought, every desire. He's leading you deeper and deeper into love. And when you allow that union, when you embrace this new and living way, when you step out of the ark, you're stepping out into the day, into the light. And you become a light when you allow that union to take place. So if you never get out of the ark, if you never let go of that old way that was your protection, right? But if you never let go of it, you're never going to embrace that new way. You're not going to be lit. To be a light, you've got to be lit by his Spirit. You've got to find that oneness. And that means he is so intimately connected, writing everything right on your heart. Until next time, keep stirring the deep. It's the one thing that changes everything else.